Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher from Sweetwater. Welcome to my home studio. For a long time, Toontrack's EZdrummer and EZkeys have been mainstays in my creative music software collection. I use them constantly for creating demos, writing music, making backing tracks, and just for messing around because they're so fun to play with. But the one thing that's been missing from the equation in all that time is the last member of the rhythm section, the bass player. Now Toontrack has addressed that with the EZbass virtual instrument for Mac and Windows. Like EZdrummer and EZkeys, in my mind, EZbass comprises two things. The first is a stellar virtual instrument for playing bass, whether you're using a live MIDI controller or working in your DAW. Second, EZbass really is a virtual bass player that you can use to craft realistic-sounding bass parts for your music. There are two incredible sound libraries included with EZbass. There's a vintage bass and a modern bass. Now, these were created using Toontrack's decades of experience sampling state-of-the-art instruments, and they sound absolutely awesome. And like EZkeys and EZdrummer, EZbass includes a huge array of grooves in a library that you can use to create your own songs. Or you can edit those grooves or create your own grooves to make them match up exactly with what you want for your music. Plus, EZbass features brilliant technology that was developed for their flagship Superior Drummer virtual instrument. This technology actually allows you to convert audio tracks. You could take a guitar, a bass, or even a drum track. EZbass will analyze that and create a groove based on what it hears. EZbass can also use MIDI files for generating bass parts. So you could drag a MIDI file from, say, EZdrummer or from EZkeys or another app, load it into EZbass, and it'll generate a bass part based on what it finds in that MIDI file. So let's take a look at how all this works.
The top part of the EZbass window has 5 important tabs or views. You can access the library of bass sounds from any tab here at the upper right. But in the bass tab, we have a lot more control over the bass sound. As mentioned, there are 2 EZbass libraries, Vintage and Modern, each of which includes finger and pick style variations, which effectively gives you 4 different basses to choose among. Plus, there are many presets, including DI and amped versions for each, that take advantage of the sound shaping capabilities within EZbass. Here are just a few examples. In addition to the presets, using the effects menu you can tailor the sound to exactly what you want. You can adjust the blend and level of the 2 pickups as well as set the bass's tone controls. Then, depending on the preset you're starting from, you can adjust the amp controls, EQ, sub-bass level, compression, chorus, delay, reverb. There's a huge palette of sounds available inside EZbass. You also have fine control over the instrument's tuning. When you've finished crafting your perfect tone, you can save it as a user preset.
One of the most powerful features of all of Toontrack's EZ instruments, including EZdrummer, EZkeys, and now EZbass, is the included groove library. Toontrack creates these grooves using actual live players in the studio, so you get all the inflection, all the articulation, all the feel, and all the groove that those players impart to their performances. With EZbass, the included library covers a huge array of different styles and feels, and keep in mind that you can always edit those grooves as well to make them match up with exactly what you want for creating your own music.
Because the groove library is so huge, Toontrack provides all sorts of ways to sort, filter, and search to find the groove you want. You can filter by style, groove, time signature, rhythmic resolution, and more. Then you can audition grooves by clicking on the search results. The Tap to Find feature lets you tap in a rhythm with your mouse or play in a MIDI part and have EZbass search its groove library to find close matches.
When you found a groove that you like, you simply drag it down into the song track to use it in your song. Now, we'll be taking a close look at the song track later in this video, but one of the nice things here is that once it's in the song track, we can open that groove up inside the grid editor and really get into some detailed MIDI editing. The grid editor allows us to view the MIDI data that makes up the bass part as a piano roll. This is a very common way to edit MIDI tracks.
Each little gray rectangle represents a MIDI note which is placed on a rhythmic grid. The keyboard on the left tells you the pitch for each note. At the top, you can change the chord progression for the song, and the notes in the groove will automatically adjust to fit each chord. We can drag notes up and down to change pitch, and forward or backward to set rhythmic placement, and we can adjust the length of the note as well. You can draw in additional notes using the pencil tool.
This is also where we can make the part sound even more realistic. We can add all those little touches and inflections that a bass player would put into a real bass track.
We can set the articulation for each note or group of notes. There are a lot of options, such as alternating fingers, up-down picking, slaps, tapping, harmonics, percussive hits, and more. We can make notes legato with hammer-ons and pull-offs or using slides. And we can adjust notes for swing, length, nudge forward and backward to modify the feel, and randomize. Plus we can display and adjust other parameters such as velocity, which affects dynamics. There's also pitch, vibrato, sustain, and damping and muting, as well as any of more than 120 other MIDI parameters. Using velocity as an example, we can adjust each note individually, or we can work on groups of notes to create dynamic effects.
But there are more ways to create a bass part in EZbass than playing a MIDI controller or using a groove from the library. You could also drag a drum or a keyboard MIDI file into the Drum and Keys tab. EZbass will look at the MIDI file and intelligently generate a bass part based on what it finds. This is especially cool if you use EZdrummer and EZkeys. You can drag grooves out of those apps straight into EZbass to generate accompanying bass parts.
If you drag MIDI from EZkeys, EZbass can derive a bass part from the keyboard's left hand or from the rhythm and chords in the MIDI file. If you drag MIDI from EZdrummer, you can specify what EZbass will use as the basis for its groove. EZbass can follow the kick and snare, use the kick as a note and the snare as a slap, or it can follow the power hand, which is a feature in EZdrummer that sets which of the drummer's hands leads the groove.
The last tab, Audio Tracker, features amazing technological magic that was originally developed for Toontrack's flagship Superior Drummer virtual instrument. This technology allows you to convert an audio file into a MIDI file that can be played by EZbass. You could play in a monophonic guitar part, a monophonic bass part, or even a drum track. EZbass will convert that into MIDI, and then you can use that to generate grooves.
Let's take a look at some examples. First, let's load in a bass track from my EP Foundation, which was originally played by Adam Nitty. Once the audio is in, we can compare the original audio to the MIDI groove. Here's the original. And here's EZbass's MIDI track. If we listen to them blended together, it's truly amazing. Audio Tracker picks up all the little details in Adam's playing. With the audio in EZbass, you have additional control that lets you fine-tune it. You can filter out low-volume notes, adjust articulations, drag notes up and down in pitch, adjust velocity, and then export the finished groove to the song track. Once it's in the song track, you can edit the MIDI part even further using the grid editor. This is so powerful. If you're a guitar player, you can just record the bass part you want on your guitar, and EZbass will convert and transpose it to create a bass groove. It's super slick and way more fun than programming MIDI parts one note at a time.
It's amazing how close EZbass gets to the original performance. And one big advantage here is that we're not locked into any particular bass tone. We could use a vintage bass tone, we could use a modern bass tone, we could choose any tone or preset from EZbass, load it in, and hear how the part sounds using that particular tone. We have one more big advantage here. Because the audio track has been converted into a MIDI file, it's very easy to load it into a notation program and generate a lead sheet or a music part for a musician to play from.
Here's another example. Let's bring in the kick drum track from the same song from my EP. The original was played by Keith Carlock. In this case, we've got some bleed from the snare drum into the kick mic, which EZbass is picking up. But by setting the filter, we can tell EZbass to ignore that bleed and just work with the actual kick drum hits we want. Now we can add that to our song track, add a chord progression, and finish our bass part.
We've seen how easy it is to find and create grooves inside EZbass, but that's really just the first step. We need to take those grooves and assemble them together to create our song, and that's where the song track comes in. If you've used EZdrummer and EZkeys before, then the song track will look very familiar to you. The song track allows us to build songs by assembling grooves together. We can have different parts of the song, so we could have intro, chorus, verse, solo, or whatever, and then we can specify chord changes within each of those parts. EZbass uses those chord changes to generate the notes that it plays as it's playing its grooves.
It's super easy. Just drag or move a groove into the song track. Or you can click Add Groove to put in a really basic groove that you can then customize in the grid editor. Each groove in the song track has 3 parts. At the top we have the overall song part, verse, chorus, or whatever it might be. You can change this using the Edit menu at the top. In the middle is the chord display. As we saw, you can edit the chords in the grid editor, or you can click a chord and select Add Edit Chord, or double-click a chord to choose the chord you want. You can also specify a slash chord with a bass note under a chord for inversions or other chord types. Use the scissors tool to split chord blocks so you can add more chords in a measure. At the points where the chords change, you can add transitions in the bass parts. A number of different types are available: short notes, long notes, triplets, swing feel, and slides. You can also adjust the play style for each chord block. You can set the octave, velocity, damping or muting, and note lengths. A really cool feature is Replace MIDI. This allows you to keep the chords that you put in the song track, but replace the groove that's playing those chords with another groove. It's a great way to experiment with different feels in your songs.
That wraps up our whirlwind tour of the main features of EZbass. There's so much you can do with this virtual instrument. It's incredibly powerful. I've had my hands on EZbass for a while now, and I've been blown away with how easy, no pun intended, it is to create music using this instrument. And when you combine it together with EZdrummer and EZkeys, you have a powerhouse rhythm section that's available at your beck and call 24 hours a day. I hope you've enjoyed this introduction to Toontrack's new EZbass virtual instrument. Stay tuned, I'll be coming back with more videos soon on how to make music using EZbass, as well as EZdrummer and EZkeys. If you have questions about EZbass or any of Toontrack's products, contact your Sweetwater sales engineer or visit sweetwater.com. I'm Mitch Gallagher from Sweetwater.